Okay, so what I'm about to do in this step is pretty powerful. I'm going to create a GitHub repository and push my work, push my homework up to that repository. And what that allows me to do is I can share it. For example, when I'm submitting the homework, I can share the link now to my repository. It also becomes, GitHub, my GitHub profile, my account becomes an online portfolio of the projects that I'm working on. So as I work on more and more projects, coding projects, data science projects, and make those public, then the whole world can kind of see what I am working on. I can share it with employers, I can share it with teachers, I can share it with coworkers. So it becomes a very, very powerful tool for you going forward, and we encourage you to start using it and learning it to submit your homework at first. So the starting point for this tutorial is I have this homework 3, which we downloaded in a previous video. I've made a change to it, just kind of a demonstration change. It said hello world, and go ahead and save that again. And so now I want to push this repository up to my GitHub account. And so I've logged into GitHub, and this is what you'll see the very first time you log in. It's an empty GitHub account without any repository. So let's create our first repository. So I'm going to say create repository. And because we're doing this example with the week 3 homework, let's just say MMD week 3 homework. Give it a description. And we're going to do a README later, so let's just say create repository. And so now I have a repository. It's entirely blank. So this is my online repository, and it's entirely blank. What I want to do now is I want to push the work that I've done on my local computer into this online area. And so I'm going to use the instructions here to create a new repository on the command line. So I'm going to go back into Terminal, and I'm going to navigate. Let's back up a little bit. I'm going to navigate to my folder that contains everything that I want for homework 3, because a repository is just a collection of files and folders. So let's go to, it was in Documents, Jupyter Lab, and homework 3. And if I look at this, it has 3 files in it. It has my Jupyter Notebook file and 2 image files. I want to push all of those. So now that I'm in the correct directory, I'm just going to copy and paste some of these commands. So what this is saying is echo, meaning print essentially, this line of text into a new file called README. So I'm going to press enter, and then I'll just show you that now I have this new file here called README, and if I were to look at that file, I could look at it from Terminal. It has that line of text that I put in there. I could also look at it from here. Here's that README file that I just created with that line of code. Now I gotta say git init to initialize a new repository, and it says yes, that's been initialized. And now I'm going to say git add README. And commit this. So what I've done here is I've added this file to my commit, which is the work that I'm planning to push, and then I've named that commit. I've said create a new commit and call it first commit. Now what I'm going to do is add a remote, meaning I want to tell my local repository where to push when I tell it to push to the remote repository. So it's this line here, git remote add origin is a bit of GitHub terminology, and then the address for my Git repository. And now I'm going to push. Okay, so I had to pause the video for a second to get around some credentials issue that were specific to my computer. Let's get back to this. So we're running this command. It's git push origin master. And so let's enter the username and the password. and it's a success. It's created a branch called master on a remote called origin. And now if I go back to GitHub and refresh this page, I can see that I have a file in my repository. And now you'll notice that I only have this README file, whereas what I want to have is the rest of these. So let's add these now. So from terminal, I'll say git add period. That'll let everything in this directory and below. I can say git status, and I can see that I've now set these files to be committed. And so let's say git commit message. Say add homework files. We always want the messages to be fairly descriptive so that when someone reads them, they know why we've done a particular commit. So I think that this is descriptive enough. And now let's do our push command again. Let's say git push origin master. Refresh the page, and now I have all of my files in here, and it includes the most recent changes that I've made, which is this hello world line. Let's add one more change just to drive it home. So I'm going to go back to my Jupyter Lab and say, let's put it into math here. Okay, I'll save that. And if I go back to my repository, I can run this command. I can say git status and show me what's changed. It showed me that this file has been modified. And so if I want to push this to the remote, I'll have to add it. Status again shows me that it's now been added to my commit. Let's name a commit. And say git push origin master. And here's the name of my latest commit. If I click on it, I can see my file has changed. And if I go to this homework file here, here are my latest changes.